was was the dev of this project supposed to remain anonymous, or like was there a plan for the unveiling? Because I figured so far things haven't really gone to plan, so I was kind of curious about that.
You can say that again. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the plan was that. I mean, honestly, in retrospect, we kind of fucked the plan up in the sense that like we kind of just vaguely thought that people would accept that through some magical authority that this was the real Trump token. So that was kind of the game plan. But obviously, we didn't take into account how stupid CT is. All you fucking morons. Um, it was, and we also didn't take into account the fucking dick riding of idiots like Zach XBT and GCR. It was like really tough. We acted rationally, and in games when your opponents are not acting rationally, you also have to ask irrationally or at least plan for it. So we kind of didn't plan for that. We assumed that like a Fox News or a Pirate Wire's saying, "Yo, this is the real thing," that's enough. That's the whole fucking idea of the media. I mean, the media literally said Barron spearheading official Trump token. That should be it. That's it. No more questions, right? But you guys are idiots. Like most people in CT, once this like whole news comes out, which you'll see soon, like I don't want to be around this fucking idiots. Like they're too stupid because they have $500 in some fucking meme coin and they hope that they're gonna get rich from it. And it's just morons. Like literally morons from top to bottom. It's I don't know what you do about that, you know? It's just like too dumb to talk to. Like who wants to be around this community of idiots?
Yeah,
Um,
it would have been a lot different if it was kind of accepted, that that was the story, and you didn't have fucking GCR come out and swing dick with $100 million and having you have to dox yourself and put
100
all this
million
stuff
bucks.
up.
Yeah, 100 million bucks. He doesn't want to fucking stick to now, because our mutual friend Ryan, he fucking told GCR, dude, you're wrong. I just DM'd him. I was like, I got 100 million bucks, dude. I have the wallet address. You can fucking see it. I'm not wasting your time, vice versa. But you actually are wasting my time. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, it's I think it's a real toxic, corrosive kind of part of the quote unquote space. It's not even a space. Like this is the subhuman underdwelling. Like imagine a big beautiful city, call that Bitcoin, and then this is the subterranean dwelling of some mutant, lair. That's basically what crypto Twitter is. And it's nobody with real money. It's everybody with just fucking, $200 that they're swinging around in a Phantom wallet or a MetaMask, thinking that they're, there was this girl that used to come in my Discord and she was like, I mean, she was a sales girl who had like $800 every week she'd put into her various, crypto quote unquote investments. And she talked about it like she was fucking running Fidelity. She'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna allocate assets to like you're trading $600. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, I'm gonna diversify into Pepe. Um and I got a big bag of I'm like, if you say big bag one more time, do you think people on Wall Street talk like that? I got a bag of render. Like what bag? What the fuck? What you have a position, not a bag.
What I will say, man, is that when the real truth comes out, which I feel like it will soon, it's kind of seeping out at the edges that all these fucking retards are gonna hopefully feel stupid and realize the entry that they fucking missed, dude. Because this thing is going to billions, bro.
Who
Like I
knows?
didn't
I mean,
honestly, I didn't believe the story at first. Like I didn't follow it very closely, but after I kept digging and then I learned about the CLMM pool that you guys set up and all the fees and stuff like that, I was like, there's no way that Martin has the keys to this shit. There's no fucking way he does. He's not that
I'd
fucking
be,
stupid. There's no way.
I'd take every dollar. I'd be on a fucking plane to Mexico. You kidding me? But no, in all seriousness, I don't really care if it goes up. Meme coins aren't worth anything anyway. Like, it's not like they're fucking prized assets that are generating income. Buy Microsoft stock, buy Apple stock. People buy meme coins because they want to gamble. Yeah, if you want to be in crypto, maybe buy Bitcoin. I don't think it makes sense to buy meme coins. They're intrinsically worthless. One, two, you're playing a zero sum game basically, where you have negative information. Uh, so for me, this is just look, I'm just trying to help a friend and trying not to be fucking called a liar. That's it. And all this other shit, I don't give a fuck about. I hope it goes to zero for all I care. know, I hope it doesn't matter to me whether it goes to zero or a million or a trillion, billion, zillion, quadrillion crypto points. I don't give a fuck. You guys are all trading, you know, tiddlywinks that are worthless, and you're all dumb as rocks. That's what I've learned about this space. There are some serious people in Bitcoin, a couple of serious people in Ethereum, but not really. That's about it. The rest of it, like I said, subterranean sludge humans, hybrids from another universe. That's basically my impression of this space after my last week in it.
Well, max risk, max reward, man. We'll see what happens, bro. And appreciate what this shit you've been putting
Good
up
luck
with,
with that,
man.
man. Good luck with that. It's not what I would be doing, but good luck. What's up, Rowdy? Or Basel? I don't know. Basel, you just come in my space and play sound effects. You better start talking. See? See? Block and remove. That's what I'm talking about. These are the kinds of people that think they're fucking serious investors.
Photoshop chat messages.
Yeah, I don't know how to use Photoshop for what it's worth, but there are some people that have given testimony. Um, so 4 people have seen it. Um, Zach XBT wrote some stuff about it. I don't know if you checked that out, but yeah, that's really it.
How do we know it's not Sahil pretending to be Barron? It contacted a bunch of people.
I don't know. I don't know how you know. Maybe one way to know, just gonna throw this out there, is if you were really important, you can talk to the people that were also really important that talked to Barron and myself. That's one option. There were a lot of billionaires and CEOs and stuff like that we met with, and there is this kind of rumor mill and grapevine that exists, and sometimes people will whisper to each other, but if you don't know the people in the know, like Ansem or Gainsey or some of these people, and you don't have a relationship with them, and you say, hey buddy, you know me 8 years, did you meet with fucking Martin and Barron? Yeah, actually I did, but don't tell anyone. That's the kind of conversation you need to go try to have. Those
Dude,
aren't. Go ahead,
Martin, along
bud.
the same lines, how the fuck is Ansem not tweeting about this and everyone not connecting the dots that is all the evidence you need to know? It's been how many days? How many times has Ansem been implicated and named in this? And he hasn't said shit to the contrary? Like, that tells me
He, wa-
beyond everything else.
he wants to keep a positive relationship with Barron, and I can't blame him,
Yeah.
but Barron's not going to fucking do shit for him.
Well,
So,
I think, well, to your point,
in
I mean,
fact,
everyone
let
is
me
stupid as
let me
shit.
finish. In fact, we were very pissed off that he fucking denied us thrice, as Paul said in the Bible. It was very annoying that he didn't want to work with us. We were surprised. As I mentioned, we joked about bringing him to the debate in Atlanta. We talked about trying to get Trump to name drop him in the fucking debate. We did whatever we
Yeah.
could to get him to pitch, to talk about this token, but he just wouldn't do it, and it was annoying. It was crazy, actually, and that's why Ansem's not exactly on. I stopped following him. He follows Barron's Instagram, which somebody has a screenshot of. If I don't know why Ansem would be following some random Instagram account. I can't make Ansem follow a random Instagram account, so maybe that's evidence. But you just have to piece it together, and it. I don't really care. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I hope people don't believe it. For all I care at this point.
No, I think people are on their way to believing it right now.
Well, let them believe it. Let them not. I don't give a fuck anymore.
Well, I gotta give you huge props. Like, the past week has been incredible, and for you to come out and do what you've done, the amount of time you've put into this to clear your name and or, substantiate your story. I think anyone with two fucking brain cells can see that this is
That's
legit.
two more than most people here have.
It is
Seriously,
true.
I think 99% of the space is retards. I really do. I think it's mostly retards with like $100 to $10,000, and they're trying to fucking find the token that's gonna make them rich. It's not gonna happen, by the way. Go find a real job. Go learn some Python,
Well, I
um,
100% agree. You're
and then
right.
seek the nearest bridge and jump off. That's my advice.
I will say like that's what makes the space great. That there are this many people involved. That Solana has opened up the world to online crypto trading where Ethereum and Bitcoin has failed,
If
and
I
that's
could
why this
press
space.
if I could press one button, like a big red button on my desk that could shut down the entire Solana network, I'd press it. It'd be
I
over.
think that
Goodbye.
button exists. I think that button does exist,
It
but
probably does exist. That's the downside of Solana. It probably does exist.
oh, but
It's
well,
on it's on Tol it's on Tolly's desk.
well, it's good. Dude, I think GCR owes you at least
Stop the
10 mil, dude.
blockchain.
I think
Stop it.
GCR owes you 10 mil, like at the very least,
I think
at
I
the
think
absolute least.
I think at the absolute least you're right, but at the end of the day, I don't need 10 mil. I don't want 10 mil. I want reputation, credibility, and I'm also not looking for clout. The positive reputation. I just don't want negative reputation.
Yeah, I think, dude, that's what me listening to the last, like, dude, you've been on Spaces for 28 probably
No,
collective
I
hours.
was on Spaces before this. I like Spaces. It's a good product. I like talking, chatting with people. I just don't want to chat about the same thing for the rest of my life.
Well, you got to in a time like this, so props for you for, stepping out and
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
it.
no, I want to defend myself, but in the litany of things that have happened in my life, this is just another chapter of interesting stuff.
Yeah, and this
Um,
too will pass, and I think in a
chapter
positive light.
Chapter 9, Making the Crypto with the President's Son. Chapter 10,
It's
uh,
incredible, dude. It's incredible.
Becoming a Cat-Human Hybrid. Chapter 11.
Dude, it's incredible, man. Like, and no, what were you saying? You said you don't blame something. I don't know. I do. I blame fucking GCR for all the FUD. Like that
I do,
fucking
I
bet.
do. This all started with GCR, chiming
Dude,
in for the
I
collective.
honestly think you guys had the best launch. Like the news networks, when I saw the accounts tweeting about it, like I was 100% like locked in, and then of course
But
you
again,
get
I don't.
one
At
retard.
this point, I don't really care about the token. I don't want to sit here and dwell on it.
That's
Like,
fine. That's fine.
yeah.
But I think the story is golden. I think the whole
Yeah,
fucking
I
thing
think
is a bet.
what's funny about all that is like it reminds me of the Wu Tang album in the sense that I bought this album for 1.5 million. I sold it for 2.4, and I never expected to make a dollar on it. I expected it to be an alternative asset to buying PR. A lot of rich people buy PR from like a PR kind of manager, and sometimes some of these places will cost you a few $100,000 a year or more, and basically all they're going to get you is like maybe an interview in a magazine or something. And so this thing got me just gigantic amounts of attention, some positive, some negative, but just huge. I couldn't get my name out of the paper, which you really can't pay money for. I mean, that's just priceless. And this is sort of similar, more for the project than anything, but like if picture this, like Melania released an NFT collection like 2 weeks ago or something. Absolutely nobody cared. Absolutely nobody cared. I don't know how much it sold, but like this thing was like that's the kind of thing you would pay a PR agency $300,000 to try to get people to care, and it's hard to get people to care. Here, we didn't spend a dollar, and it became the most talked about story. So when you talk about like engineering PR, for whatever reason, that's like the one fucking gift God gave me, that I didn't ask for and I didn't want, and it just follows me for whatever reason. And again, maybe it's my own naivete or stupidity or whatever, but the way this thing came out, you really couldn't pay for it. Because now imagine an alternate universe, okay, where you got PR firm and you got all these lawyers and you got all this stuff, and they said, well, 12% of the token is going to be donated to Veterans Affairs, and 6.5% of the token is going to be donated to homeless. Nobody would buy this token. People would just be like, what the fuck is this bullshit, this corporate nonsense? And it had like Trump campaign, Save America. Like maybe somebody would buy it, but this is like
This
nice
is
and
exactly what
fucking
it needed to be,
nice
dude.
and dirty and degenerate. Yeah.
It's exactly what it needed to be. Like, it's literally, I say again, GCR has fudded the space out of its probably the best fucking token that could have it has ever gotten. Like, it's incredible. I honestly think he owes you some percentage of that fucking 100 million. It's
Yeah, I'm not worried about the 100. Crypto Block is up here. He's a friend of mine. He's listening. If he wants to jump up, he's more than welcome because he actually has firsthand knowledge of the situation, which is kind of wild. So he's an eyewitness, believe it or not. Let's see if anybody else around here. There's a couple more eyewitnesses that we haven't heard from, but it's not really that important. At the end of the day, like I said, I got absolutely nothing to prove to fucking the retards in this space. At this point, my signal and my text messages are just people with actual money that believe me, and I'm fine with that. I don't need the approval of some cat PFP.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, who's this?
Hey, just like one quick question. You pinned a
I said
message.
who's this. I said
Oh.
who's this.
Oh, I'm just a nobody, but I just have one quick question, if that's
You're
fine.
part of crypto Twitter, right?
Yeah.
You have less than $1 million, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, can I ask my question real quick?
Let's go. No,
right.
no, you can't ask your question. I'm not done with you.
Dude, why not?
Dude, why not? How old are you?
I'm 19.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am.
Do you own any meme coins?
No.
How'd you make $1 million?
I don't know. I got lucky.
Tell us how. It's a cool story. It's a better story than your question.
It's not that interesting. I just
All
have
right.
no.
Get the fuck off my stage, man. If you're gonna
Dude.
fucking participate and be interested.
I want to know.
The fuck?
I want to know now.
All right.
That's it.
Well,
That's it.
Nah, you pinned a message in the DJT Telegram.
You want to come up here and lie to the people?
I'm lying?
Tell us your story.
I don't have to tell anybody my story.
Yeah, I don't have to fucking listen to you either. I don't have to keep you on the stage.
All right.
You ever heard of fucking mutual benefit? You give me a little bit, I'll give you a little bit. I don't know you shit.
Okay, that's fair. Have a good day.
I'll smack the shit out of you, fucking little kid.
That's not true. I would rip both your arms off and kill you in real
Incorrect.
life.
You sound like a fucking nerd.
I mean, bro, you're like
wars. I've been through wars. I grew up in fucking
you
Brooklyn.
haven't been through shit. All you are is
I
like
haven't been through shit. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? You didn't see the Colombian Mexican massacre at Fort Dix on the 3rd floor. You didn't see Shkreli with a lock in the sock asking anybody who wants to smoke. I got the lock in the sock. I'm nice with the lock. That's one of the best weapons in jail. You can have a knife. I don't give a fuck. I got the sock. I got the lock. And the lock is inside the sock. And that lock is going to fucking destroy you. That's what I do. And I grew up in Brooklyn. Gunshots all night. Can't sleep. Shkreli pondering math theorems while the gunshots go off. Yeah. That's right. They call me on the streets of Brooklyn. You know what they call me? They call me the professor. Go ahead. Go to Kings Highway at Nostrand Avenue. Go ask around. Ask about the professor. Why do they call me the professor, you say? This is my friend, my Albanian friend. He would know. Why do they call Shkreli the professor? Well, I was very good at basketball, you see. But I also wore glasses. Okay? So they were like, oh shit, it's the professor. And the guys would start laughing, cracking up. All the black kids. They'd be like, it's the professor, yo, look at him. And I'd be like, I would just look at them. I'd like narrow my eyes. I'd be like, let's ball. And they'd be like, oh shit. And then eventually they'd be like, oh, the professor kind of, I don't know what the slang was back then, but he's kind of nice. And, I'd play and I'd win and I'd be like, game over. Professor wins. I'd walk out. All the black kids would be dumbfounded. It was sweet. But that's why they call me the professor on the streets of Brooklyn. So I just, check how you talk to the professor before you fucking, make a fool of yourself. What's up, Mike? Mike or Maurice or one of you guys. Daniel, what's up, dude? See Kepunen.
See ya, boy. Mir.
See, Dan and I are speaking Albanian. It's a language spoken by only maniacal, wild, and crazy men.
Oh,
Respect.
yes. Yeah. I wanted to address something that happened in the beginning of the space. So there was this like very good looking blonde profile picture. And when the guy spoke, well, it was obviously a dude. Like, how often does that happen in this crypto weird space of
I
ours?
think that's just the internet for you.
You
That's
think
just
it happens more often than not? Is it all these losers
shut
that you
up. Why are you
consider
making this?
crypto
This is not.
Twitter?
You're wasting our time. That's not an interesting topic. The fuck, Mike.
How many guys cosplay as girls on the internet?
A lot.
Brother.
What's up? Somebody talk. Stop boring the shit out of me. I was
Were
bored.
you just moving around chips, poker chips?
No, not me. Maybe Daniel. Not me.
That was how that 19-year-old kid made all of his money. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, he had poker in his profile too.
Okay.
Yo, what's good, Martin?
What's up?
Just bored, chilling. Appreciate you bringing me up.
Yeah.
I just want to say you're the GOAT. You're my idol, bro.
Thanks.
Got a picture of you by my bed.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Would some say like you're like the white 50 Cent?
I'd say that's fair.
That's
I would say it's a mix of maybe the white Jay-Z, but maybe the white 50 Cent is good enough. Somewhere maybe in the middle of those two. Yeah, sure.
When's the album coming out?
God's Gift. God's Gift is my debut double album. It's been talked about for a long time as one of the greatest rap albums of all time. It's it's a concept album, okay? The first album is the Old Testament, okay? And the second album is the New Testament. And I rap, on both, of course. And on the Old Testament, it sort of has a lot of the same themes as the Bible. It's like gritty, hardcore, old school rap. And then the New Testament is more about my status as the messiah of rap, how the game needs me, and how I was born, how I grew up, all the same parallels. The 12 Wise Men, that's my crew. They rap as well. All the scenes in the Bible are recapitulated in the music. And the best track is Three Wise Men. And some Rolling Stone has heard it, a few other people. And it's Biggie, Tupac, and Jay-Z are the three wise men, right? And they come to see me in the crib because they saw the North Star or whatever from the story. And instead of bringing gold, frankincense, and myrrh, they bring like weed, cash, and like, I don't know, some other shit. And
pussy.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know if you bring that to a baby, but okay. The weed, cash, and I don't know, cocaine. Something like guns. There you go. Weed, cash, and guns. And they rap about how you are you are the messiah of rap. It's true. We have nothing on you, Shkreli. And then I rap in the last verse after Biggie, Tupac, and Nas rap, not Jay-Z. Then it's me, and I explain why I was the immaculate conception of rap, and that's really it. So the album's pretty good. It tells the whole story. Really, it's the Alpha and the Omega. I mean, what can I say? That's really it. The last track is Revelations, and it's just fire. It's me and Eminem on the last track. So anyway, it's a masterpiece. It's been years in the making. It's been delayed release for years now. So we'll see when God's Gift comes out. It's God's Gift, and I'm like God's Gift, but the album's also called God's Gift. So it's a concept album. All right. Anyway.
So you're essentially putting your all into this. It is
Pretty much
everything. Of you.
Yeah, this is my whole life. Yeah. I basically poured about 12 million bucks into this album already. It's going to be another 10 or 20 to finish it. When I helped make the Wu-Tang album, you know, I said, gee, what if I made an album for myself? Right? Think about that. Right? And I'm the star. And Lil Wayne and them, Drake and them, they're making this music for me because I'm paying them money. And they're like, yeah, Shkreli's the shit. I'll make my own platinum, triple, quadruple uranium album for myself. That genius right there.
Is it true that you were the ghostwriter for Tupac before he died?
No, I was too young, so that doesn't add up. Although I was capable at the time. I actually was reading some of my old essays. This was more like 5 or 10 years ago from high school, and I was like shocked. I was like, I can't write that well now. It doesn't make sense to me. But I went to a very competitive high school with a lot of really, really wonderful, intelligent people, and many great writers, including Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote the Hamilton, based on an essay he wrote in high school. We had to embody. It was very interesting. For one class, we just the whole semester was embodying one person from the Revolutionary War period, and I think it was like John Dickinson or something, and somebody like really minor. They didn't give me the good one. I wanted to be George Washington or something, but we had to write papers about our character and study them and like really like spend months researching this one person. And Lin Miranda Manuel, who is a couple years older than me, he got Hamilton. So he studied Hamilton really closely. And rap music was a thing in our school. There's a rapper named Immortal Technique who became a sort of underground, semi well-known rapper. And I had a rock band, kind of the preeminent rock band of the high school, and so there was all kinds of music in the school, and Miranda liked to rap, I guess, and he sort of turned that into Hamilton. Uh, but I had this professor. It wasn't really a professor because it was high school, right? But this guy Kagan, and Kagan was a real pain in my ass. I used to fight with him all the time. And his sister is the Supreme Court justice. So that's really funny. So it's a really interesting high school. He did a lot of crazy stuff. It's a great school here in New York. It's probably the best school in New York. The Wall Street Journal says the best high school in America, and I would agree. But neither here nor there. The history of Martin Shkreli, not too interesting, but
Now, you said you used to fight with him. I really can't picture you fighting with anybody. You just seem very easygoing.
I'm pretty easygoing. But I'm also, as Daniel will tell you, like very quick to temper. All Albanians, yeah.
All Albanians are, to be honest. We're very friendly, happy people. But if you try us, we'll get very up your nose. So
Yeah, it's pretty easy to get. The Albanian temper is very well known, and it's just you go. I mean, it was scary to be honest. Growing up, my father would go from 0 to 100 so quickly, and you know, I it would scare me, but it also made me a man in a lot of ways. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Daniel. Yeah,
absolutely, shotgun edhe ripin.
yeah. I just kind of by the time I was 15, I was a grown man. It was odd, but I could compose myself and carry myself like a man. And I think for whatever reason, the old country, which is what we call Albania, there was a lot of this like when you're shock, which means like your family and friends, when they would come over, you would set up plates for them. You'd present yourself very carefully for them. It was a big deal in Albania when people came over your home. You really had to go out all out, and you had to really demonstrate, your family in a positive light. And part of that was if you were going to talk to the adults, you really had to be prepared. And I would regale adults with all kinds of scientific knowledge or whatever, and I would try to present our family in the best light. And I think it was an interesting way to grow up. Certainly not perfect, but it was the way I grew up. I can't change it. So I take the good and the bad. But yeah, by the time I was a little older, and especially growing up in the streets of New York, you learn a lot quickly as well. Most Albanians are either from Detroit or New York, We came after the fall of communism in the 70s, and a lot of people went through Italy through refugee camps, and they ended up in the two most prosperous, which my parents were in refugee camp for a year, and they never even talked about it to me, really. It's almost like they were embarrassed about it, and communism had a really negative impact. And the reason my parents and I were ultra capitalists is one of those reasons, is leaving Eastern Europe's communist breadlines and things like that for the self-made success of America. Albanians are fairly hardworking people. Not that you could typecast the whole people. There's lazy people in every area. There's hardworking people in every area. But, you know, a lot of Albanians came to America. They wanted to succeed. They went to Detroit for the car industry, which was very successful at the time. It's not so successful anymore. And then a lot went to New York, and many Albanians became worth 10 to 50 to 100 plus $1 million. In fact, the other Martin Shkreli, he's an older man. He started off buying buildings in the Bronx, and in fact, he was labeled a slumlord for a while. But he started buying more and more buildings, and he ended up making quite a fortune. And then I started getting into the paper, and he was like, well, you know, it's funny, you know, everyone's talking about you and your hedge funds and stuff, and you know, I'm here, you know, I've been doing this for a real estate thing for a long time, and he's just such a gracious guy, by the way. I mean, what a nice man. Give me advice from time to time. So, you know, I think Albanians on the flip side, unfortunately, have been in a lot of wars over a long time. It requires that, not a warrior gene, so to speak, but like that little bit of ability to be collegial, but also be defend your country, your territory, etc., your tribe from invasion. And you know, this is one of the oldest peoples in the world. You know, so the whole Greek kind of Mesopotamia, you know, Turkey area, you know, Illyria was what it was once called. You know, we sometimes say that we're Illyrians, which comes, you know, kind of the predating of the Albanian state. So really interesting history, but like I think the temper thing is real. And you know, in jails and in gang life, Albanians are known to be some of the most vicious, kind of crazy people, you know, you don't want to sort of get on the wrong side of. But at the same time, you know, they're super nice, interesting people. Dua Lipa is probably the most famous Albanian right now. Mother Teresa was Albanian as well. And yeah, small country, only a couple million people. More Albanians outside of Albania, I believe, than inside at this point. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have the Albanian identity nearly as much as maybe Daniel does or some other people. Like everybody has a certain amount of it, but for me, you know, it's not really that huge part of my identity. And I think my dad especially was instrumental in letting go a little bit of that, which I'm sure was a little bittersweet, but he really felt that American life and American culture was superior and that we would assimilate here, and that was it. Anyway, what's up, John? How are you? Good to see you.
Good, thanks. Likewise. Yeah, I hope you're doing well. I'm always curious when it comes to Mediterranean people. Speaking of Illyria, you know, like Spain, Greece, but like especially Illyria and Greece, they were incorporated in Rome first as the Republic and then the Empire for like the better part of the last 2,000 years. So I'm always curious, do you feel like you or other Albanian people, do you have any sort of like patriotism or like kind of like positive feelings towards Rome because of that? Or is it more like, oh, this was like some foreign oppressor type of thing?
What do you think, Daniel?
I think, you know, if we go back in history, like there was no such thing as Rome and stuff. So we're like sort of the tribes. So then when we immigrated, then it started becoming the empires and Rome and Greece and stuff like that. So we sort of have some similar cultural mannerisms. So that's why sort of we go well with Italians, and you know, we sort of like look up to that history. Don't forget, we have Skanderbeg before the Turkish Ottoman Empire invaded Eastern Europe, that he had exclusivity with the Pope. So the Pope would pay Skanderbeg to protect Italy from being invaded from the Ottoman Empire. So
I actually didn't know that.
yeah, we always had good relationship with the Italians. We also had a prince, you know. So that was from the Italy, and
This
then
is. Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the Swiss King Zog.
King Zog, yeah, King Zog as well, but sort of set up monarchy, and then the Italians took over, and then Albania has been under a lot of occupation, you know, since even after Ottoman Empire with the Italians, there was monarchy, and then, you know, a lot of people may not know this, but when we were under the Nazi occupation as well, we kind of were one of the few countries in the world where actually even helped Jewish people hit. We claim them as our own brother and sister, or like kids, and we make them Albanian passport. Fun fact: there's a passport of Albert Einstein, Albanian passport, in Albania.
No way! I'd never heard that.
I swear, you can Google it. It's in the museum. So
Albanians are one of these kinds of people that we try to claim. I'm not saying you're doing that now, Daniel, but
yeah,
we do try to claim everyone, and so
yeah,
like it's kind of an Albanian meme. And
yeah.
John Cena, the wrestler.
Oh yeah, he's
I
not
was
Albanian.
hanging out with the Albanian guys in prison who I don't want to use the word protected, but like, you know, we stuck together.
Yeah.
And you know, we Albanians have a disproportionate representation in prison, unfortunately, and there was a lot of us. um, and I was hanging out with the Albanian boys in prison, and by the way, my Albanian language skills rose dramatically in prison because I didn't really speak it much, but in prison we spoke it sometimes. And the guys were like, "Oh yeah, you know John Cena's Albanian." We're like, "No," I was like, "No,
No.
he isn't." And they're like, "Yeah, man, John Cena."
John Cena. Stop it, bro.
Every single person, like Michael Jordan. Yeah, you know he's 3% Albanian. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Visitor, what's up, man?
Yo, what's up, guys? I've been recently to the Balkans, and I wanted to know from your point of view, between the Albania and the US, where's the baddies at? Thank you,
Great
bro.
question. So I'd like to answer this, and all my Albanian friends and family are going to hate me. The thing that we learned as a child, in my family at least, was that you go to Albania and the word is mera. Mera means to take or to get, like literally like to pick up, and you mera nusin. Nusa means wife, basically, and so you literally take a wife. And so like you go to Albania, you like peruse the stores basically, and you're like, okay, this is my wife. And it was sort of this traditional, you know, setup. It's not quite like Indian culture, but you know, in terms of arranged marriage, but it's fairly arranged. And so I was talking to Martin Shkreli, not my senior, not my father, but the older Martin Shkreli. And he said, I told him about that. I said, oh yeah, I'm going to go Meranusin. I'm going to get a wife, take a wife when I go out there. And he said, Martin, those days are over. I said, really? He said, oh yeah. He's like, Albanian women have tattoos now. They got piercings. I was like, oh my God. I said in Albanian, you know, some expression of surprise. And yeah, so those days are kind of over. But in terms of the beauty and stuff like that, there's beautiful women in every culture. It's sort of a little bit of what your taste is. Albanians are weird. Sometimes they can be extremely beautiful, but sometimes I think Daniel knows what I'm talking about. I'll just speak of men for a minute. Like sometimes men can have a face of like a rock, like as if somebody took a rock and like just like completely like destroyed parts of somebody's head and face and bone structure, and it's just like this Balkan, like, you know, angular face where like cheek, nose, etc., all that stuff is just contorted. And I don't know, like I feel like there are plenty of beautiful Albanian women and Albanian models and things like that, and they're gorgeous, but there's also, you know, Albanian women that aren't so beautiful. And you know, that's just normal everywhere. Now, me personally, I like American women that are like the plain Jane girl next door. But you know, the really ethnic women, it's sort of not for me. I know some people like that, but I don't know. That's just kind of how I am.
When you say American women, do you mean like German or British or what?
Right, that's the weird thing, right? I just kind of think of like Anna Kendrick or like,
The
you
Hawk
know,
Tua girl.
Jennifer Love Hewitt, you know, some just like girl next door type look.
Any
You know,
girl
Emma,
that could Hawk Tua on that thing.
Emma,
Get on it.
Emma,
Get on that thing.
Emma
Yeah.
Watson.
When is the SEC sorority tour? You need to go on one.
There you go. Like, yeah, going to Mississippi State or Ole Miss, sorority girls. That's what I'm talking about. The Albanian baddies are baddies.
The American
but,
dream.
yeah, Albanian girls are, they're there's actually a bunch of like Albanian hood girls, which isn't so great. I think Daniel probably knows what I'm talking about, but like
Are there black people in Albania?
there are not.
Okay.
There are also no Jewish people.
Why are there so many expats in Albania?
I don't think there are.
I've met a lot of digital nomads who live in Albania, and I was just surprised.
I think Montenegro more.
Yeah, they also removed the tax for digital nomads, so a lot of people are taking advantage of that.
Yo, shout out to levels.io for making that whole trend. That's crazy.
If you're not going to speak, leave some room for other people to come up and talk. But go ahead, Mitch, or anybody else.
Hey, Martin, how are you? I just wanted to ask you, why DJT token? Why not nigga butt token?
Well,
because
good
there's no
question.
nigga butts in Albania.
Good question. Good question. I did buy some of the token you mentioned, which I will not rename. But then I sold it.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
Why?
the whole N folio. I just, didn't. I had Nicolas Cage too. That was a good one. And Satoshi Nakamoto. That was another classic blue chip. That was a blue chip. The one you're talking about was a little bit more. How should I put this?
Gay?
Aggressive.
The meta.
High
The meta.
beta, yeah, very
What
high
about
beta.
nigga with do rag?
It was very. That's another blue chip, But sometimes when you buy these high beta tokens or stocks, like you're in them for the idiosyncratic risk that they provide to the portfolio, and then sometimes you have to prune them as their return profile approaches the CAPM frontier. So for me, it made sense. My factor model said it was time to reduce our position in Nigabut, and we pruned the position slightly for risk-reward reasons. We will revisit the investment thesis at some point. Our investment committee is excited about opportunities across the Nigafolio. I feel like, right now it's an asset class we're kind of bearish on, but I do think that eventually the time will come in the cycle that this will add some exposure, and add some melanin to our portfolio.
Bro is Kathy Hood.
My Arab quad
hold
told
on,
me
hold
that
on.
nigga butt is the future of finance.
This changes
The
everything.
Bloomberg analysis
This
of the fucking
this
coins, bro.
this changes everything. This changes everything. There's a Kathy Hood.
Kathy Hood.
Is it Black Kathy Wood?
We can change the banner.
What is Kathy Hood?
There was Catty Wood.
Yeah, Kathy
Cat-
Hood is
a
Black
cat-
Kathy
A
Wood.
cat that's Kathy Wood.
So it's just one person at a time. What is Kathy Hood?
That's when you sell your Enfolio stocks and you make a big statement about it.
Does anybody have a token contract address here? If there's a Kathy Hood and it's like Black Kathy Wood and she's like legitimately like from the hood, I'm selling everything and buying that. I'm selling gold.
I don't think there's a
Gold.
token. I just made that up because
We're launching this right now.
All right, I'll be right back.
You have so many people typing furiously right now.
We need Kathy Hood.
So many
Kathy Hood
folks
is
working
the best
hard.
idea I've ever heard. I'm selling Tesla, selling Nvidia, all the real estate, global real estate holdings, bonds. It's all over. Kathy Hood. She's, just like all the Hood stereotypes of her being long, all these like very high risk, high tech stocks. I like it. What's up, Sonic?
Yo, what's up, Martin? Quick question. So, do you see like a material benefit to the way the whole situation played out with the token? Like whether that's in terms of influence or opening or closing any doors for you?
I think of the world a little bit differently from most. Like, I think a lot of people run around the world trying to meet the most important people they can. I try to get the most skill I can. I think that skill brings the people to you, not the other way around. And when people say, "Oh, Martin, he really knows JavaScript" or something like that, a smile comes across my face. When people say, "Oh, Martin, he knows Peter Thiel," that doesn't make too much sense because one is causal, right? The causal, um, what drives the relationships is why. Why do they know of you, or why do they care about you? So imagine two trust fund kids on a yacht in the Hamptons or something. It's like, or at some function at the Hamptons. It's like, okay, why is this happening? Well, because person A doesn't have much skill in anything, person B doesn't have much skill in anything, but they're both quote unquote wealthy, kind of, because their parents are actually wealthy and they're just hanging out for no reason because they have nothing else to do. And, it's just life, and that's fine. That's their choices, right? But for me, I'd much rather be gaining skill in something and learning things. And, you know, in terms of opening doors or closing doors, I just don't think of it that way. I think you open the doors in your life, you close the doors in your life yourself. And if you're really skilled at something, people will try to break your door down to get to meet you, not the other way around. And that's the perspective I have. I think a lot of people, like, I give these financial series, and some of it is about financial statements, like how do you depreciate capex or something like that. But um, some of it is also about just how to organize your life. And I think that one of the biggest things, one of the biggest things I tell people is, like, the worst advice ever, or the worst aphorism ever is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think that's the craziest saying ever said. Like, it really is the most useless advice ever, because you can know every person in the world and you're just not going to be successful because of that. And I think that you have to have a lot of skill and talent, and then yeah, meeting people isn't hard. There's the infinite amount of money looking for somebody who can double their money or triple or 10x or 100x their money. There's no shortage of wealth in the world, all around the world, that wants that. And if you can display your skill, people will notice. They're not gonna, especially with the internet now, it's almost impossible for them not to notice. So, there's a kid who I'm a big fan of named Will Depew. I would follow him if I were you. He's a young programmer, and he was programming and putting stuff out. And a company called OpenAI approached him and hired him. And I actually think OpenAI is lucky to have him, and that he's actually going to be bigger than OpenAI. And he's 19, or something like that. And I don't know him well, by the way, but I know his programming work, and I know he's excellent. And I would imagine he's going to be could be the type of guy that a future Elon or a future whatever. And the point is, his work speaks for itself. And people like me notice, and they tell other people, oh, this is the guy, this is the up and comer. And people like that are going to rise to the top, and then people will want to meet him and so forth. But the same applies. It's like he only wants to meet people that are special, not just because they have a special last name. And again, that's how I felt about the young guy in this situation. Was I wasn't interested because he had a famous last name. I was interested because he spent a lot of time with my disabled friend, and he was willing to talk to him and hang out with him, and I don't know, cheer him up or whatever, just be his friend. And that was super cool. Not many people do that. I come from the pharmaceutical industry in rare diseases, and I know the kind of psychological and personal toll rare diseases take. It's brutal for families and for the individual and so forth. And to have this really famous guy, be willing to sit and talk with this guy for days on end about nothing in particular, I thought that showed some character. That was really cool, because that's also a person that very easily could do the same thing with a Kanye West or with a supermodel or whatever, but he chose to talk to somebody that had absolutely nothing to offer him. Absolutely zero. Just a disabled guy in a wheelchair and willing to be his friend. I thought that spoke volumes of his character. And for me, that matters more than what's your last name or how rich are you or all that stuff. I think character comes first, skill comes second, and then all that other stuff, wealth and family and name and all that stuff, that stuff's kind of an anti-signal to me. So
Where does height lay in on that?
if you're looking for Nusa, it's number one apparently. I'm 5'9". I kind of hunch over, but maybe if I stand up straight, I'm 5'10". But the number one factor in the factor analysis for women, in the linear combination of all the things a woman's looking for, height seems to be the number one thing. So now the looks maxing culture, I will say, is really one of the worst things that exists. And these younger kids, now that I've gotten a little bit more exposure, I have a kid in our office who's 18, who's from a foreign country, and then I've got these two guys that I met, and I learned a little bit more about this looks maxing thing, and it really is disturbing that there are people out there who want to break their knees or something and then extend their height by a few inches, and then also wear platforms like male high heels, basically. And it's just like, look, you can be a short king. It's okay. I don't consider myself short at 5'9", but I don't consider myself tall either. And it's, I've never really thought about it that hard, to be honest. But, as I got older, I realized that women really want the tallest guy they can find for whatever reason. It's probably evolutionary or something like that. Same reason I want the girl with the biggest boobs I can find. But it's just part of this innate human, life. And it is what it is. You can't change it.
100%. And just kind of circling back, like, I'm there with you in terms of the quality of your character and skill and things like that. But my question was more so about the unforeseen potential benefit, because obviously one of the consequences of this that was probably unforeseen was how much of a headache the whole token launch has been for you. But do you think there could potentially be some benefit to it going wrong, or like being a mess?
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, that if you made a token the same way celebrity might with a PR agency and all that stuff, and you said 10% of the token proceeds are going to Veterans Affairs and 20% will go, and you put out a pie chart that's really formal, 20% will go to the campaign and 20% will go to,
but not for like, I don't mean for the token though. I mean like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I put myself last in a lot of things, which has hurt me over the years, but I don't care, I mean, this isn't my idea, this wasn't my project, so unfortunately I was kind of thrust into it, because the problem that happened here is you do have to open your kimono when you do one of these things. And if we did it differently, I think we would have done it a little bit differently, but we met with 50 people, and it didn't take long for gossip to get out that, actually Martin's involved in this. And word got out, and then there's really no turning back at that point. And, my partner's kind of, found stage, exit stage left. I think they'll be entering stage right, hopefully in the next couple of days again. But it was, it was really surprising, frustrating. Not that surprising. It was a little foreseeable, unfortunately. But, you got to roll with the punches. I mean, if you've ever had a business of any kind, if you read like Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, they almost lost Nike like 5 times, and they had to find ways to save it 5 times. And my business experience has been the same. We've almost lost my first drug company. We had $12,000 in our bank account. It was not looking pretty, but we went public, and this crazy Brazilian kid who had multiple sclerosis, who also had a hedge fund and a very rich father, sent us $1 million, and then we became a $1 billion company. And Vivek Ramaswamy invested tons of money in us, and it was awesome. But if that Brazilian kid never read a Forbes article about me, he never would have called us and given us our basically bridge financing to be successful, and you never would have heard of Martin Shkreli ever again. So crazy, how life is, and it's just a lot of randomness. So for me, I don't dwell too hard on that stuff, because it's like, you just can't, if you look back and you wanted to carve those paths and draw them out and say, okay, if I made a left turn here, right turn here, you just got to go. You can't think about it too hard, because all those crazy coincidences were unplanned. All the positives were unplanned. All the negatives were unplanned. It's too stochastic, chaotic, and, there's no real way to control anything. The only things you can control are your reputation for hard work, your reputation for being honest, your reputation for being straightforward, those things that you can control about yourself, that people will pick up and see consistently, that, okay, this guy is somebody that seems to really like to work hard and really likes technical things or whatever. The couple of things you want people to know about you have to stay the same. And I've tried hard to do that. It's not always easy. But, for whatever reason, I think some of them have stick and propagated, and when people talk about you, you want them to say, that guy is X, or that woman is X, or whatever. And you hope that that X is not crazy or stupid or dishonest or like one of those things, and you hope it's intelligent, interesting, whatever it is. And so, we don't get to choose those things necessarily either. So, it's chaotic. There's no easy paths in life, and you just have to just do the best you can. Billy, what do you think?
I just want to counter your points of meritocracy and saying that I've found as a woman that if you're interesting and attractive, you don't really have to have any life skills to be successful.
Yeah, I understand. I actually do think it's very different for women. I mean, speaking from a man's perspective, it's quite a bit different, in my opinion.
Right, like you can be hanging out with billionaires and not women don't have to have money or be successful to rise to the highest ranks of society. I can personally attest to that.
What do you think, visitor?
I think she's retarded, and we want some smart women. We want some funny women. We want some Balkans women.
This guy.
I was in New York. Yeah, tell me.
Are you Albanian? Are you Shqiptar?
No, I'm
Oh, okay.
French. So I was in New York a few months ago, and it was like absolutely. I was on Tinder, just scrolling, and there were freaks everywhere, like big women, shit like that. And then I went back to Paris, and I was like happy to see some beautiful women. And then I went to Serbia, like Balkans in general, and that shit was crazy. Like it's a dream. It's being awake in a
You
dream.
French, you,
That shit was crazy.
you
Go there,
French,
boys.
you
Go there.
French froggy scumbag, taking all of our women. Stay the fuck away from them.
Brother, this was crazy. Balkans forever. I'm gonna come back.
Amazing. And now I'm asking you to leave our stage because I've had enough of you. Typical French fuck. And misogynist, right? No, wait, the other way around.
One of us is hanging out with like Mark Cuban, and the other one is that guy.
Funny, funny, funny. Just to be clear, my spaces, you don't have to raise your hand or anything. Just be an adult and let people finish and say whatever you want. I don't care.
I got a question, Martin.
Yeah.
What do you think about Trump's VP pick? Who do you think he's gonna pick?
I mean, I actually know, so I gotta be careful.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Yeah, but I
Can we
think
make a coin out of it?
yeah, no coins, no more coins for me. No thanks.
Is it Tom Cotton?
I have no comments whatsoever. But I think picking people based on I think you have to pick individuals, like really strong, like salient people. And I think that it's always a big mistake when you pick somebody based on statistics. Like you want somebody with 2.5x or 3.5y. Like I think you can over politicize something. And he did that in the first term, I think, when he got that vice president. Nobody ever heard of Mike Pence. And he was just like a fucking stiff as a rock and like useless. And like he didn't get any votes because of Mike Pence. Nobody cared. It was just a blah assignment. I think, you know, someone like Vivek could have been a good VP, but he doesn't fit a lot of the check the boxes. He's young, he's brown, he's very brash, which kind of doesn't mix great with Trump. But he wasn't even on the list. He didn't make it to the list, let alone, get picked. So, Vivek was just too out of character. I also don't think he wanted it. So he made that kind of clear. So keep that in mind. But I think it was just, I don't like it when you pick people based on that. And I think Trump's got a lot of good people around him, and he's got some not so good people around him. And I think that's part of a campaign too. Like if you could, it's part of every company. My company doesn't. Every employee isn't perfect. I try to very carefully make sure that they are, but you eventually have to say goodbye to some of them. I think a campaign, which can be thousands of people, apparatus. It's hard to get all perfect people, but I think that there's a lot of people in campaigns that they want just the look of something. Remember when Romney said he had binders full of women? Right? That's the kind of strategy that some of these people have, which is like, some of you may be too young to even remember that. But there's a presidential candidate named Mitt Romney, and he said they had binders of women because people challenged him. He said, "Why don't you have any women in your staff or campaign or whatever administration?" And he said, "We have binders full of women," and it really spoke to this idea that he's like, just like trying to fill a gap and not focused on the person, but I need this many women, I need this many people of color, I need this many older people, this many younger people. And it's like, no, look, just pick the best person and come up with your crew, assemble your crew one way or the other. And I think that's something that's sort of problematic across society. And I think this, quite frankly, this vice president's probably going to be someone like that, where it's like, the person checks the boxes statistically, and that's like really not what anybody needs, but the campaign people control a lot. And I think that they, are kind of, they're focused on those heuristics that kind of make sense to them, but don't make sense to anybody else. People don't vote for heuristics, people vote for people that make sense to them, that they love, that really sing out to them and warm their hearts, not, oh, okay, this person, is this or that. But there's also an art to this that I don't know. I'm not a pollster. I'm not a campaigner. I mean, I don't know how this stuff works. So maybe they're right and I'm wrong. So I don't know. But that's how I feel about that. Do we want to move on to somebody else? Talk about something else?
I was actually kind of curious what your views were on psilocybin, just because I know you look up to Peter Thiel, and he's in Compass Pathways, and he's obviously a proponent of that stuff. And you've been in the pharmaceutical industry, albeit doing different things, but I was curious if you had an opinion on it.
Yeah, so I'm bearish. I fired the guy who started Compass Pathways, so he worked for me, and I fired him. I don't think he's very talented. He was like a very low-level executive, and he's not done well as a result. Not as a result, but he hasn't done well in his new role. He didn't do well for me. He didn't do well in his company prior. He's just kind of a knucklehead, and I don't think that you can take some old psychotropics and pray that they work for serious psychiatric diseases. I think that the problem in psychiatry is that we don't have great medicine because we don't have great science, and it's hard to do brain science. The brain's a sensitive thing. You can't take it apart and put it back together and do stuff like that. So we have very limited tools. So psychiatry hasn't really changed materially in 50 years, and that sucks. But at the same time, we're making little strides here and there. There's a great new schizophrenia medicine coming, the muscarinic drugs, and then maybe someday we'll have better antidepressants or better anxiety drugs. It's a disease that particularly affects my family. Yeah, I mean, we'll see, but I think that we've, the fact that we're looking towards psilocybin and MDMA and stuff like that is actually very worrisome, more than it is helpful, because it shows that we have nothing going on in biology or chemistry that's that useful or interesting. I mean, this is the best we have, is repurposing, ancient drugs to hope that maybe they might work in serious illness. I think in cancer this would be a laughingstock, right? In cancer, we can tell you exactly what protein, exactly what amino acid is going wrong in exactly what oncogene, oncoprotein, and create a drug to stop that. That's precision medicine. That's amazing. In this, we're like shooting at the moon, with a blindfold. It's retarded, and it's sad, and it's not working, by the way. Those drugs aren't that useful for those diseases in my eyes. And, it's the state of psychiatry. Ask anybody in pharma, they'll say the same thing. And I don't think the solution is, expand the gamut of drugs you try and pray. I think the solution is sharpen your pencil, get some science going that actually makes sense, and get to work. There's a wonderful company, actually, that kind of did this. I don't think they've succeeded quite yet, but what they did is they did a phenotypic screen using animal models. And what they did is they typically, and there are a bunch of psychiatric animal models, believe it or not. The Purcell swimming test is the archetype where you drown the mouse. And you see, this is terrible, but you see how long it takes before it gives up. So this is supposed to be a surrogate for depression. So the mouse is supposed to fight for its life, drowning, for 5 more seconds if he takes Prozac than 5 less seconds if he takes placebo. And this is a like measure of volition and will to live, and it is a serious study for depression, because we can't ask the mouse if he's depressed or not. So we throw him in the tub and see what happens. But this company, I'm trying to remember their name exactly. It's been a long time since I cared about this stuff. But they developed an assay that was sort of what they call kind of low throughput or medium throughput. So they basically could automatically, using AI kind of, but mostly using just basic algorithms, determine whether or not mice were active in their cages, and could see if they were exhibiting kind of depression symptoms, and using cameras. And they could do hundreds of mice at a time, maybe even thousands, and they could just kind of get a sense for it. And you could give different drugs to different sort of areas of the cages. Like you give 10 mice a certain drug, and then 10 mice a different drug, and then 10 mice a different drug, and you can see which group of mice do the best. There's a lot of interesting science around that, but people have given up on psychiatry in general, like the big pharmas that are now focused mostly on oncology, cancer. They've almost all but abandoned psychiatry, even though it's still one of the biggest unmet medical needs. Depression is one of the biggest costs to society, as is anxiety. Schizophrenia is extremely expensive. And we could, probably solve most of those diseases if we tried hard, just as we've solved certain cancers. So that's my spiel on that. I don't think Thiel is infallible. I was one of the first biopharma guys he ever met 15 years ago, and I think he's got some smart people working for him, but they like to do exotic things at his company in general. And the moonshot, like random, like off-kilter pharma stuff they've done has had mixed, I think, results. But they're a great team, but they're not known exactly for their prowess in biopharma investing. Let's move on to somebody else.
Martin, has Mullis contacted you to fill the MD role?
What?
Mullis Bank?
No.
They haven't contacted you?
Who?
You don't know the Jonathan K story?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, the Moelis. Oh, the guy who punched the woman. Yes, that story there. Yeah, no, they've not contacted me. No.
Gotcha.
I'm not ready to be an investment banker.
All right, man. Have a good one, Martin.
Yeah, bye.
Yo, Martin.
Yeah.
I came on here. I wanted to lighten the mood a little bit for you because I wanted to freestyle for you.
No, definitely not.
Are you sure? I can really break the stage. I'm serious.
I'm sure you can. It's funny. I have a good story from jail. There was a guy who his name was Bo Cash. Bo Cash was an interesting fellow, and he really wanted me to sign him to my record label, which didn't exist at the time. He just assumed I had one, which I didn't. And he was like, I was like, look, Bo, but I had a record label briefly, but it was mostly rock related. And I was like, look, I'm just not in that business. I don't know anybody. He's like, you got to know somebody. I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think I can help you. And he's like, he came to my cell and he started like giving just like this guy, giving his material. I didn't ask. And I'm just sitting there listening to this guy rap, sing, you name it. And I'm just like, oh my God, what is going on in my life right now? And I was like, okay, well, thank you, Bo. I appreciate that. I will let the people I know that you're extremely talented, and thank you. And it was just the weirdest thing. So that reminded me of that.
Martin, I want to tell you something.
Okay.
I just appreciate your poise. I've listened to hours and hours and hours of you talking the last couple of days. You are up against people who are so largely intellectually dishonest and either dumb and hive mind collectivists, and your commitment to upholding values of truth and critical thinking is very much needed in spaces like this. And so I'm just a personal follower of you now. I have no bias with your sentencing. Everyone and their mother came in here with bias, and you still killed it in all of those spaces. And so I want to know about your other projects now. I've been looking at who's been following you in these rooms the last thing I want to say, Marjorie Taylor.
I think I got most of that, but I missed some of that.
But yeah, I just wanted to compliment you, and I hope there are others who feel the same way. Maybe you persuaded others to think more critically. We need more voices like yours. But the last thing, I was trying to bring up Marjorie because we need to push this Barron token. This is a net positive. And I don't know, she's the soccer mom of Congress for the Republicans, but let's just get this moving forward.
I think
I
you'll
don't
see
know.
some action soon. I think the common sense that it makes to you, to me, to others, like many big donors, it doesn't take long even for campaign people to realize they made a mistake, and it makes a lot of common sense. For example, if you're really the crypto president, you should let your son have his crypto project. If you are just a cool dad, you want your son to be a billionaire. If you understand how these like weird subcultures work, people rally around, like GameStop stock, for example, became basically a cult. People will affiliate and kind of, I don't know, confederate around a price of an asset and buy it and boost each other and pay much more attention if there's money on the line and they've actually personally made a quote unquote investment. It's not really an investment. They're investing more their emotional, I don't know, stock and money than they are investing their money, their personal money, but they're doing both. And they are kind of saying, I have a limit as to how much personal emotional investment I can make. So let me also reach into my personal financial investment to buy something and care about something. It's like that old joke, like I did XYZ just to feel something. You know, you shouldn't do this with your money, but people do it anyway. And I think that it's not uncommon at all. And again, for GameStop, people are just like, I just bought the stock because I want to be part of the movement. It's like, what movement? It's a stock. There's no movement. This isn't this isn't some like, you know, investing isn't about making a statement. It's about making profit. And but for a lot of people, that makes sense to them, and that's cool. But it's you know, it's a little odd. And you know, I think that they're realizing that there is something to that, and that it could.
Do you really think that's the main pushback, though, the culture of investing like this? Or is it the fear of SEC violations? They can just clearly separate this and say very clearly it's not going to the campaign funds and easily push the project past that.
I think it was, again, I would know more than anyone, and I still am not 100% clear what the pushback was, but I basically think it was some percentage of me just being kind of not a favorable figure to a lot of people. And then some percentage of control. So basically, what I understand is that when you run for president, you're basically handing over your life to this campaign apparatus. And the campaign apparatus is obviously the people who are trying to get elected, the person who's trying to get elected is also part of the planning. But in general, all of it's planned by a campaign manager. And the campaign manager would rightly be furious if there was some major thing that happened that wasn't planned in their control or they weren't made aware of. So it's kind of like, imagine if you're the CEO of a company and the company releases a new product and you say, what the fuck? you know what he told me about this big product release? You got to be kidding me. Stop this shit right now. And I want to meet the people responsible. I want to talk about this. I want to plan. And then you meet with them and you say, oh, this is a great product. My bad. And it's like you'd feel like an asshole for wanting to stop it, but you'd also feel rightly kind of violated for not being consulted in the first place. Now, the problem is a campaign isn't a company. And I've tried to be clear, probably to a lot of people's chagrin even further, that even if your dad's running for president, you still have to live your life. You know, your life doesn't revolve necessarily around the things that are happening to other people in your family. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but like, you still do have to live your life and look out for your goals and do the things you want to do. And I think that the idea that some campaign person you don't even know has to sign off on everything you want to do in your life is crazy. And I especially think that that's not the case for some of the other people in that family. So it's really ridiculous when you expect, you know, someone like Don Jr. to have 100% autonomy, but someone like Barron to not have autonomy and have to listen to everyone around him have his life dictated for him. And I think it's unfortunate, but that's kind of what happened in my estimation. Hope that helps.
Well, I think like
Do you think he's shy and not confident? He's an 18-year-old, a kid growing up in the White House. Maybe he just doesn't have the confidence to speak up, and it's really that as the main factor, not the lawyers and all those
Maybe a
other
little
things.
bit of that too. I mean, we'll see soon. I think you'll see resolution of this fairly soon. So it's sometimes what do they say? There's some great poetry about this. It's like sometimes you're I don't know. There's a like thrust into greatness is thrust upon you, or like something like that. And sometimes you're not ready or prepared for it, or sometimes fortune doesn't knock on your door and ask you if you're ready. It just knocks on your door and doesn't care if you're ready or not. So there's a lot of ways to look at this, and again, we'll see how the movie unfolds. Its next chapter continues soon, but it's fascinating. It's been fascinating to have a front row seat. It's surreal, but a lot of my life's been surreal, and I think it'll just continue to be surreal. What's up, Amit?
So I mainly came up because I heard you guys talking about Albania, and I'm Albanian too. But because you're talking about this, I do want to say, do you think it's an issue that you decided to launch this, or you guys decided to launch this on Sol? Because with Sol, it feels like unless the Lord and Savior Ansem approves of a token, it's never gonna succeed. And since he's being so quiet about it, like it's almost like he gave the kiss of death to the token.
Well, we talked to Ansem ad nauseum for the last several months about this. He came to my office, and I met him in person to discuss this matter. I think he sort of went back and forth. I think he wanted to do it, didn't want to do it, wanted to do it. And I think he's got a lot going on in his life. So what do I can't blame him for not endorsing it, but I did unfollow him. And I just one person can't dictate whether prices of assets go up or down. I think that again, CT has this like idiotic mentality that like what Zach XBT says is gospel or what GCR says is gospel, and Wall Street doesn't work that way. For example, there are many billionaires of Wall Street, like many I've traded against publicly and very aggressively, and I've been right. And when a certain person buys a stock on Wall Street, like, I don't know, Dan Loeb or Bill Ackman or whatever, the stock goes up like 1%, maybe, right? Even if that person has had a super hot hand lately, it doesn't go up 50%. It doesn't double. It goes up, 0.5%, 1%. When Warren Buffett, who's the greatest investor of all time, buys a new stock, it goes up a little bit. It doesn't double. So, that's the real world. This fake meme world is obviously a little different. You don't have a lot to go on. So if somebody buys something, it means more to them. But it's not just about assets. It's also about communication. So again, Zach XBT, certainly not infallible, completely fallible, and completely wrong in this situation. And again, using semantics to dice and slice and excise himself out of kind of embarrassment, and use me as the collateral damage. Frustrating and annoying, and only, in my opinion, only people who want to look into it will understand that. The people who want the outcome of me looking bad and him looking good, they don't need to look any further, right? So, they get their dopamine hit, and that's it.
Yeah, but don't you see it as an issue with the Solana ecosystem in general,
No,
where like I don't
no.
know, like personally, I think if you guys launched on ETH, it would have not got the backlash that it did.
I don't think it
Whereas
matters.
with Sol, I feel like as if the main figures of Sol don't co-sign it publicly,
I
something
think
can't
it's
really
all
run as easily.
maybe not, but I think it's all kind of fake bullshit in the end anyway. It's you know, again, Ansem is a nice guy. He's wealthy, he's smart, but I don't see how he's the arbiter of anything. And same thing applies to Zach XBT or GCR. Just because somebody's rich or has done something successful in the past, it has zero bearing on the thing they're doing in the future. You have to take each individual situation kind of at its own core, because partially for the reason because there's sampling error. Like, this is a really small sample size. When somebody makes a stock call, and they make 6 stock calls and 5 are good, that's not statistically significant at all. When a high frequency trading firm makes 60,000 trades in one day and 40,000 of them successful, that's statistically significant almost, even one day, let alone a course of a year. So, I think people make statements and they try to spin them as correctly as they can because they don't want to be wrong for that sampling reason. But we don't get that many swings at the bat, whether you're Ansem or ZachXBT or GCR. Last time GCR was noteworthy, it's because he beat Do Kwon in a bet or something. And here he knows he would lose this bet if he made it, so he doesn't want to make it. And he shifts the definition of it. And he's actually going to lose every definition of it, in my opinion. But not in the time frame that I would need to have the quote-unquote clapback. That's why when he made his bet, I said, "You're on," and I pressed Barron to come out and say, we'll clap back and win this bet literally 30 seconds after he makes it. And that's kind of when the shit hit the fan, because Barron incorrectly told all the powers that be that he was going to do this publicly, and he should have just done it and not asked for permission. But I think that asking for permission kind of got him to get shut down. And now I think powers that be are going to let him do it, but we don't know for sure. Of course, he may or may not get allowed to do it, but it's it's all these sort of like sacred cows, or these like false prophets that kind of get elevated to a status that's shut up, kitty. My cat's here whining and crying, but I'm not paying attention to her. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but anyway, that's really it. We call them matzah in Albanian. Emmy, thanks for coming and co-hosting and adding and subtracting people. Feel free to knock people off the stage if they're ugly or not interesting or something.
Well, I think the slow adoption of this is not that surprising by the campaign and the post SBF fallout of DC. Like, SBF caused a lot of problems for a lot of people in DC and for a lot of campaigns. So it's not that surprising to
I didn't even
me.
think of the SPF angle. That's a good point.
But it's not that surprising to me that the adoption is slow. Not that it's not going to come. I think that it will come, but I think that would be the reason for it to be slow.
Hey, good evening, sir. Any chance you have an opinion on like where there could be a hot flashpoint, like whether it be in the Philippines or in Taiwan, regarding like Chinese aggression? Random thought.
Yeah, this is something I don't know anything about. Sorry. Let's kind of rotate and get some more people up here. If you haven't said anything in a while, just step down and let some other people talk.
I wanted to once again say that if Barron's being held back, and they're like threatening him with legal consequences, that I do think giving away his profit share, 90%, 80%, to people affected by Biden's bad policies, not the campaign, but charities. I think it could be a huge savior for the situation.
Charity doesn't work, does it? Are there charities that do good things?
There are charities that do good things,
No,
and even if the charities aren't doing good things, they just really have to appear to do good things.
I was gonna say
that's how a lot of charity works, and we should consider it to save Barron. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Charity is just might as well incinerate the money, honestly. But it's I do get your point, and I'm sure his handlers are thinking that through and probably fucking up the whole thing in the process. Anybody can speak in my spaces. You don't have to raise your hand. Just behave, and if somebody's been waiting, let them speak. And
I saw earlier you posted something and then deleted it. Why'd you delete it so fast?
So I think that if you want to bring that up, I'm going to block you, remove you, and never talk to you again. So it's up to you if you want to ask. Do you want to ask?
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Hey, Martin, what did you think about those claims that Terrence Howard made on Joe Rogan? All those scientific claims.
Well, I did a quick interview with this guy, DJ Vlad, who's like a hip hop guy who I like quite a bit. And he asked me actually, was it online or offline? I don't know if it made it to the interview, but he was like, "Yeah, I can set this up." And I was like, "Awesome, great." And he was like, "Dude, this guy doesn't know anything about science. It's just." And I'd be happy to, not like I'm the greatest fucking scientific thinker ever, but I'd be happy to have the discussion with him and do that on videotape. But he's definitely like at the very least, he's very clever and creative, and I give credit for that. But clearly, the scientific thought is not there. And there's a difference between dogma and you know intellectual exploration. I mean, without that exploration, we wouldn't have quantum mechanics. We wouldn't have Cantor, Cantor's thoughts, for example, and different classes of infinity, for example. So you need a little bit of craziness, I think, in science. If it's all dry, you don't get those leaps that come with the insanity.
Martin, do you think Vertex is gonna cure type 1D?
I have more hope that they're going to cure pain, but um, type 1 diabetes is a weird illness. I think I like the autoimmune approaches better than, quite frankly, than the kind of like implantation approach. But I think the days are numbered for type 1 diabetes, no matter how you look at it. So, that's good news. Um, Pain, type 2, those are all kind of going to fall to at some point. And it's funny, pharma is going to kind of becoming this like monolith industry where like maybe 5 or 10 drug classes matter and everything else doesn't. Where in the past it was like there were literally hundreds and hundreds of drug classes, but now it's going to be like, no, you either have a GLP-1 or you don't. You either have a NAV inhibitor for pain or you don't. And then maybe for type 1 or something, it's just basically going to be a handful of mega classes, in my opinion. Alzheimer's would be another one. And like we're whittling down like the diseases that are left to like a handful. And there's only so many plausible mechanisms, right? So you're not going to have like 20 different diabetes classes, like we do, and they're all generic. We're just going to have like one super drug. So it'll be interesting. I do think type 1 is going to fall by the wayside. I haven't looked at the Vertex data in a while. Obviously, whenever Vertex does something, they kind of play to win. But it doesn't mean they always win. You can look at the CRISPR drug as an example. So we'll see. I'm going to refresh my look at that and see. But I'd rather focus on their pain drug because the first very powerful non-opioid pain drug, could be really great.
Do you think there's inherent interest to focus on dealing with the symptoms instead of actually coming up with a cure?
I think it depends on the disease. Cures are tough to come by because you're talking about a living biological organism where there's a lot of signals being sent, and some diseases are cured when you take the drug, continuously. For example, just simple example, is if you take allergy medicine, when you stop taking the medicine, it stops working because the receptor that the medicine, snuggles into, the little nook and cranny of the protein that it gums up and attaches to, it's the medicine's no longer there to sit there. So you'd either have to make a medicine that can like permanently live there, which doesn't make sense because your body filters medicines out. So a cure is just kind of impossible. So it's okay to have a good treatment that requires continuous therapy. There are some cures. Hep C was cured, for example, or is curable, as are most other infections. So I think that there's no economic rationale. For example, some of the gene therapies that you take once, they're very expensive. So all we'd have to do is just raise the price instead of charging you, say, $5,000 a year for 20 years, which charge you $100,000 one time. We make our money no matter what. There's no drug company that can't figure out a way to take the money. It's more about how do you make a great drug, that's not easy. We've struggled for that. Like, for example, for diabetic nephropathy, diabetic nerve pain, there's virtually no medicine that can treat that. And, it's not for lack of trying, and it's not for lack of money. It's just a very tough, tricky scientific problem. And same thing applies to all those brain diseases we were talking about earlier with psilocybin and MDMA and that kind of stuff that I view largely as nonsense. These are desperate diseases where people are desperate for medicine, and there's nothing there. Anything, cure, treatment, anything would be welcome. And it's a function of investment. It's a function of facility, and those things just don't exist for some things, and they're easier for others.
Hey, Martin, this is Anthony. Just wanted a second to say I'm a huge fan. I never heard of you until all this went down, and this has been a real crazy roller coaster. Since I think Tuesday is when I got the contract address, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm just a longtime BTC holder. I never even bought a meme coin before. I woke up the next day and my profits had, I think, quadrupled, and that was insane because it never happened to me before. And I originally bought it because of it being a Trump token, but now after getting to know you and hearing how you carry yourself under all this extreme pressure, listening to the same people ask you like 50 questions over and over again the last few days, and how you've just been basically taking responsibility for this coin and keeping it going, just basically wanted to make that statement. I'm a big fan, and I'm in this coin because of you now. So just thanks.
Thanks a lot. Obviously I don't always have poise. You could probably hear me sometimes lash out at some people. So, hopefully you find that entertaining when I do. I'm not, trying to sound unhinged when I do that. There are some people in the space that are actually unhinged, but when I do make fun of somebody or yell at them, I'm trying to do it mostly trying to do it in a positive spirit. But I sometimes do, no matter how poised you try to be, people can get the best of you.
No, absolutely. It's been great. I mean, I usually watch TV at night and stuff, but me and a couple of other people. I mean, one of my friends, Howard, he kind of made a lot of money from this whole project, but I'm just holding, and we just all been listening, hanging out every night, just like oh, he's back on, and then we're just hanging out, not even watching my regular shows, not doing anything. It's been crazy, man. It's been
look,
fun.
If the kid takes responsibility for it, I don't know what price it would go to, but I bought a bunch because I think he will do it. It just makes too much sense for him to do that instead of avoid it. Why would you avoid what is just true? People, you can't hide it or cover it up as much as people around him want to do that. They just can't. So I think he owns it probably relatively soon, but I have no specific, reason to 100% believe that, but I think it'll happen. And if that's true and that happens, I could see, it was 400 even with a lot of FUD, so it's at least a double or triple, but with true confirmation, you got to think you get at least $1 billion. But the problem, though, that I'd point out, just as a caveat to all that, even if it could hit 5 billion, right? The big caveat here is you're still dealing with something that's actually intrinsically worthless. And that's something that I have issues with I grew up as a value investor. I'm still a value investor. And where I come from, things have to be worth something, and they have to create some value, and they have to, you just don't buy things if they don't actually produce income and they don't produce growth and things like that. And crypto already is a little suspect on that side. And when you talk about meme coins, you're really going out there, because you can understand that for crypto there are some, I really like Filecoin. I really like some of the other stuff like that kind of represents okay, this token actually represents this unit of value that is exchangeable for some actual good. But here it's okay, well, forgetting about DJT for a second, but thinking about most meme coins, there's no utility whatsoever. Now, when Barron asked me to do this, I had just created an AI token that you use to redeem basically compute cycles, and you can offer compute cycles. So for specific AI machine learning models, which is what the company I work at focuses on. So he thought it was super cool, and he said, let's do one for Trump. And I said, Barron, this is really different. Two different things. Yes, you're very famous and I'm not, but at the same time, you have to actually make a token be useful. And he said, can we do that after? I said, yes, actually, you can wait.
Yeah,
you can kind of you can kick that can down the road, and many have done that, where you start off without a very clear value proposition in mind, then you develop one later. And we have a long list of potential avenues we could take here. None of them are that exciting. I think we also expected that the people around us, the super smart people at whether it's a founders fund or A16Z or wherever, that some of our friends would shoot us a message and say, "Hey, Martin, I was thinking about this whole TrumpCoin thing, and what you can really do is XYZ." And sometimes you can leverage the power of the crowd to actually say, "Hey, have you considered airdropping it to all the Truth Social holders?" That's actually a good idea. Another person said, "Have you considered burning it if Trump wins?" Well, that'd be really cool because you would get this positive, reaction if you burn 10% of it or 20% of it or something. If Trump actually won, you'd have this big incentive. You'd own the token and you'd vote because you wanted to burn the rest of the token. It's kind of an interesting way to think about that, and probably want to get some lawyers involved before we would make that happen. But we just two examples of ideas we had that could kind of be neat and could be interesting. But it's early days, and first things first, he has to sort of come back to the project, and second things second. I mean, he may not want me involved anymore. I mean, I don't want to be fired from this, but I do have a day job, and this isn't the what I grew up wanting to do, engineering a meme coin. That wasn't my life goal. But I'm also happy to help a friend. If you're a friend of mine, I will do anything for my friends. And this is something he asked me to do, and I was happy to help him and happy to think about it intelligently. And again, a lot of the other people around the table, some really brilliant people, were just incredibly intelligent. There's even this thought that we probably shouldn't even talk about this, but there was some ideas that we could almost push the coin as almost like a replacement for one world currency. And obviously that's a ridiculous idea, but the ridiculousness of it would force coverage of it. And so, nobody has any semblance of idea that would be a good idea. It's a terrible idea. It's retarded. But this is the space for retarded ideas.
I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, really, and when you say it has no intrinsic value, I mean, really, what's the difference? I mean, I'm holding Bitcoin because I believe in it, right? I believe where it's going. I've held it for many years.
And I want to get to Super Tilt in a second, but I think that what I wanted to finish was saying that, you're right about that, and we can talk about the philosophies of that. But imagine if people were really, not people, but literally the people, the family in charge here, were to talk about it aggressively, okay, this could replace every currency and stuff like that. It would be so unhinged and nuts that it could actually force coverage of it, and it would be really the dynamics, the downstream dynamics of that are actually very fascinating to work through. And there could be a lot of different posturing about that could be rather funny. Again, I don't think it'll happen, but I do think it would force kind of liberal media to be like, can you believe Donald Trump thinks his meme coin can replace all the currency in the world, and I'm just so disgusted with him. I just can't handle this.
Right.
It would force people to be like, yeah, let's make Rachel Maddow cry on live TV. Let's buy more. So in any event, what do you think, Super Tilt? I saw a lot of your emojis.
Hey, it's me, Barron. I just wanted to finally come out in public and take credit.
Hey, Martin. I'm wondering, are you working on a platform that will challenge Bloomberg, Trade the News, Benzinga, Briefing.com? Is that something you're really working on?
Yeah, we have a nice little platform called Godel. You can check it out at godelnum.com. This is a very closed beta. We're I guess it's open beta, but we're not trying to promote it. We have work to do before we can really challenge Bloomberg, but it's starting to get fairly well built out, so you can check that out if you want.
Gotcha. If you need a beta tester, I'd be happy to help.
Yeah, go check it out.
All right, thanks.
Martin?
Yeah.
What do you think of Neuralink, and do you think that's the future, not just for obviously curing and solving people's problems, but to make people go from good to great?
I think that I know the space pretty well, the BCI world. BCIs are great for people who are quadriplegic and paraplegic. They do require craniotomy. I mean, you have to open somebody's brain to put an electrode array in it. This is open somebody's skull. This isn't simple. Even deep brain stimulation, very invasive for Parkinson's and stuff like that. So you can't really just, crack somebody's skull open. It's the hardest bone in the body for a reason. It really wasn't meant to be opened. Um, so
Yeah.
are there ways to potentially do it somehow, that's less invasive? Maybe. But I think that we generally don't have a need for Neuralink because we have the other senses that incorporate input output to the brain. So like if you think about it, there's absolutely no reason to read from the brain. And writing is actually impossible because you'd have to cover the entire surface area of the brain. It's all folded for a reason to get that density. So there's no way to do write operations. The only operations you could do are limited read operations. And you can do read operations without Neuralink. You could do them with your voice. You could do them with writing. You could do them with thinking, speaking, muscle movement. So you don't really need to read what's in your brain if you have those faculties. People who need Neuralink are the people who don't have those faculties. They can't move, they can't speak, so this could do that for them and serve as the bridge for their broken faculties. All of us are perfectly fine. Now, could you think thoughts to like navigate a website? Sure, but that's what your fingers are for, right? So it's really for people who are quite sick. I think of it as a great medical technology company, not the future of like the way we're going to live our lives. But I could be wrong. We'll see.
Okay, so you're saying that there's no sort of way that something that could be invented that would make us, think better or become super intelligent. It's just basically to factor in what you're missing if you've
Yeah.
got like a limit.
I reserve the right to change my mind in like 25, 30 years, but for now, that's kind of the way I look at it.
Okay, thanks.
And Adderall exists for that.
There you
In the
go.
meantime.
Hey, Martin. I just had a question about pharmaceuticals since you have a lot of experience in that industry, and you talked about SSRIs. Do you know, like, have you like talked to insiders about SSRIs and their effectiveness? And also, yeah, that's my first question. My second question is it sort of like, do you feel like some of this SSRI stuff and like depression, it's like sort of trying to cure depression is sort of like a replacement for anxiety, for religion and Christianity specifically?
Yeah, so I know a lot about SSRIs and depression, both as a patient. I use SNRIs, an SNRA called Effexor, and I also developed a depression drug, which was intranasal ketamine. So anyway, the thing about depression clinical trials is they're very, very hard to do because the people that are really depressed are not going to do a clinical trial. It's a lot of work. It's a huge, huge, huge amount of work actually to do a clinical trial as a patient, as a doctor, as a company. So it's actually really kind of almost a miracle when these trials are actually completed because they require intense patient cooperation. If you've ever been depressed, you can't even get out of bed, let alone do kind of a clinical trial. So what ends up
Can I
happening?
jump in here quickly with breaking news?
Yeah.
So if you look at Mario's latest post, he's almost confirming that DJT was created with yourself and Barron. If you want to have a look at it quickly.
Let's see what this retard's saying.
Sorry for interrupting. It just came through now.
No, it's fine. I probably should be scanning for this stuff because I do think that there will be a new development soon. Let's see. What does this idiot want? Source, Barron Trump did create. Okay. David 10x3.
I mean, we should all repost, right?
I don't care, but if you want. I know what happened. I was there. I did not hallucinate it.
You know, Martin, I just came up here because I wanted to tell you sincere compliments to you, kind of like on the point that Anthony was making. Like you've really done a great job navigating this space. Like so many times that you've had to have these conversations with people where they're asking legitimately the same question over and over and over, hours into the
I don't think
conversation,
it's such
and
a
it's
bad thing, right? Because like you
yeah.
should have the same answer over and over. That's the way to test if somebody's lying, right? And I think it was Mark Twain who said, the nice thing about telling the truth is you don't have to remember anything. Only a liar has to remember their story perfectly. And I remember my story because I was there. I remember every part of it. I have like an eidetic memory. There was this like tiny discrepancy where I really didn't want to overshadow Barron in this, which is kind of hard to do, but somehow happened, and I didn't want to claim responsibility for it, but I wanted to lend a little credibility to it, and I had to tell a little bit of a half truth to do that, but that was the only point in any of this where I was dishonest, where I was like, well, I'm not involved, but I'm kind of aware of it, and I was just trying to like straddle this line of being truthful, not being deceitful, but also wanted to protect my friend. Anyway, David's here. I think he might know something about this situation, I think.
I think it's a good point you make too, because the more you go down a
Let's let
web
David
of
talk real
deceit,
quick.
if you will. Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Oh, word! What's up, everybody? I know a little bit, Martin. Definitely not as much as you, being there firsthand, but I do have a friend, business acquaintance, and some of what you said makes a little bit more sense now after talking to him. I still don't know everything. I mean, it is a wild situation, kind of hard to imagine and fathom that it even got here, but I still do have like a few questions. So like
Well,
from what
maybe you
I
can.
heard,
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us what you heard.
yeah, so from what I heard, something went wrong at launch, and that's when things started to really go sideways. Like I'm kind of curious what happened there. Like when you
Well,
guys
maybe
did
maybe you
launch it.
can tell us. Maybe you can tell us everything you know first, and then I'll answer that question.
Yeah, I'll go over a little bit about what I know. So man, I'm trying not to name any
Yeah,
names
obviously,
because my friend asked me to.
no, only what you've shared, publicly. I'm not trying to ask you to tell us more, but just whatever Mario shared just now would be great to hear that because I don't think everyone's read it yet.
Oh yeah, I got you. Let me pull up the tweet just so that I can read it how they phrase it. Give me 1 second.
And just a reminder that I gave Mario access to my Instagram, so if he wants to, he can go read the blow by blow, and you can see what went wrong.
Yeah, all right. So what Mario just posted, according to a reputable source close to me and Walking on the Moon, someone that I work with, and we were both on a call with the source at the time when he told us this, that Barron Trump did launch the DJT coin with you. And when the token was launched, something went wrong. I don't know exactly what. That wasn't really communicated to me. But Barron reached out to a friend of the source for advice and help. And that's pretty much where my knowledge of the situation really goes cold. But, again, it's still, there's a lot of unanswered questions. But from where I sit, the person who told me this, which I do trust and has absolutely no reason to lie to me, I want to, bro. I want to see where this goes. I want to see what happens
How
next.
about an apology?
Bro, me apologize to you for what? I never called you a liar.
I'm sorry. I thought you were a liar. You changed my fucking mind. So fucking sorry. I'm your biggest believer. Sorry.
Bro, who are you?
I'm the guy who's bet $30,000 that I
I'm the
convinced a
guy
group of
who's dressed
people.
as a guy disguised as another guy. Tropic Thunder? No laughing emojis. All right, well, Martin, look, hey, was never on either side from the start, to be honest. I just was up there doing the spaces. I got to do that big one with you, 8 hours straight. That
Yeah, you
was
got that
quite the
retard, the
marathon.
retard Krasenstein's on there.
Bro, look, Martin, the correct word is retardio. Like you know this. You need to use correct grammar when
You
we're
think I'm laughing right
speaking
now?
in public.
You think I'm laughing?
Throughout
You think
this
it's
space,
funny to
I've been
me? You think
listening.
you can play with people's reputations and fucking not have any consequences?
Well, me, I was never playing with your reputation. Go back and listen.
You and your
We actually
colleagues.
recorded our spaces.
Yeah, I'll have some guy listen to it. Don't worry.
Well, I mean, you were there. You don't really need to have someone go listen. You have a good
No,
memory. I'm sure
there
you
was
remember.
spaces without me.
There's spaces without everybody.
Yeah, I've heard that some of the spaces without me weren't so favorable to me. So, I'm glad somebody did their homework.
Well, that's the thing about it. After it happened, there were a lot of people reaching out to other contacts they have, other people they know, and trying to figure out who knows somebody who was involved in something behind the scenes that maybe not was public. And
That's
that's what we've been doing.
typically what people should do before they make conclusions and give a floor to people who are making wild conclusions.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different things that could have happened, a lot of different ways that this could have played out. I mean, look, look at this from the outside. Is it 100% believable the way that you've seen events unfold? Like, do you think that the way that this happened is something that everybody would just look at and say, "Oh yeah, that's exactly how it happened"?
Well, Pirate Wire said so.
Yeah, Martin, you were the source to Pirate Wire.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Barron was the source to Pirate Wires.
Barron was the source to Pirate Wires.
That's
really
what I mean. When Pirate Wires met with us, that's why they posted it. Did you listen to his podcast?
Barron being the source to Pirate Wires.
You are
Okay, look,
retardio,
if you
sir.
say so, I'm not gonna call anybody a liar.
We had a call. We had a call with them. I mean, that's what we did. We got them to leak it.
This dude is retardio. He has not listened to any of the news. He has no idea what's going on.
You're right. You're right. I have no idea what's going on. I didn't host an 8-hour space with Martin.
I mean, there's a lot going on. I can't blame anybody for not knowing.
Mike Solana dropped us a podcast that literally confirmed everything, doubled down everything, dropped Barron Trump's name, and you're just pretending this didn't happen.
That's the point of the news, right? The news is supposed to be this independent arbiter of fact that has access to information the average person doesn't. When New York Times says that the Pentagon is considering strikes against Jalalabad, they don't just it's not a creative writer. It's somebody that's talked to somebody that maybe revealed to them true information. They may have revealed to them false information, but they didn't make it up. And so when Pirate Wires came out and said, official Trump token launched, Barron spearheading, they didn't make that up. We met with them. We literally both met with them. I've been friends with that Peter Thiel kind of...
When did you and Barron meet with Pirate Wire?
That's between me and Barron and Pirate Wires. But the point is that he didn't just fucking make that up. He didn't just say, you know what? I'm feeling creative today. Let me just write up a crazy story, right? And that's why right then and there, everybody should have shut the fuck up and believed it. But people asked more questions. And that's when me and Bo, Barron's buddy, had to go out there and try to quell the storm. And the storm just got bigger and bigger. And then finally GCR said, I'm putting 100 mil, you're wrong. And that's the event that kind of created a lot of chaos. But again, this is all history now, and I don't think it's going to matter in a couple days. So we'll see what happens.
Well, you said that you have like other proof. What kind of events or what kind of announcements are going to come out that reaffirms everybody else? Because
I mean,
my opinion isn't the same that it was when we were hosting that space previously. But I know there's still a lot of other people out here that might want a little more.
I don't think anybody doesn't believe about that Barron was involved. This is so logical. I mean, look at the other president's son smokes crack and has a website with pictures of it. Like, this is an 18-year-old kid who's into crypto. What 18-year-old kid is not into crypto? You can't picture Trump maybe leaning over and being like, yeah, go for it, son. It's not that unbelievable. Like, this is not even the issue anymore, I don't think.
Maybe to you, maybe to me, but there's still a lot of other people who aren't on the same page.
Have you been in the Telegram chat? I don't know. I can't meet anybody. I have like 5 friends that are invested.
I think he's right. I do think anybody with a pulse. Who looks at all the information can figure it out, but not everybody has that volition and interest to do so, right? And I can't blame somebody for that. I can only blame people like Zach XBT, Krasenstein's, GCR for like kind of being intellectually dishonest and willfully misleading people for their own benefit. But irrespective of that, I think this will all be resolved very shortly, and it doesn't make much of a difference to me either way.
So is Barron going to come out and say that he worked on it with you? Like, are you guys? Is
Only
that something planned?
only Barron can answer that question. So he's not here right now.
All right. Well, one more question for you. Like, even if should Barron not say anything and it continues as is, like you have a lot of people behind you now just for how you handled yourself. Like, what are your plans?
My plans are to do nothing.
He doesn't really have any plans because he made he made the token and he brought it to light and he's here defending it. Like, what more does he need to do?
Yeah,
I mean, we
I
know
think that's right.
we know that Trump is like, what, I don't know how old he is. He's almost 80 years old. He's obviously not like making a token. He's not sitting there like figuring out how to make crypto. So obviously somebody else made this, and if it's Martin with all the claims here, it seems to be, and we'll see what happens, like you said.